Hey everybody, today we're making fresh mozzarella. So if you want caprese salad tonight with the freshest cheese you've ever tasted, stay tuned. I will warn you, there are some special items you're gonna need if you wanna make mozzarella. This particular recipe calls for rennet, which you can get on Amazon or cheesemaker.com or any of those places, but you can't do this with what you have in your kitchen. Get some rennet. I have some on hand, and you will also need, this is what rennet looks like. In a little bottle. And you will also need citric acid, which I bought in bulk. I'm not sure where I got this, but giant bag, you need a tablespoon of citric acid. So what we are going to do, I've got 2 gallons of milk here. I'm going to make a 2-pound batch of fresh mozzarella, and it is going to be so good. And this milk is actually, I've skimmed the cream off of it. I have done mozzarella with both ways. I've done it with full whole milk with the cream still on it, and I've done it with the cream pulled off, and it's delicious either way. So I wouldn't worry about which kind of milk you use. Whole obviously is going to be good, but I mean, I wouldn't go to the store and buy skim milk to do this. So what I'm going to start with, I have 2 cups of water here, and I have dissolved the 1 tablespoon of citric acid in that. I'm going to put that in my pot. And then we just immediately add, and don't drop these gallons of milk because you will be crying in a giant pool of milk and broken glass. Speaking for a friend. So 2nd gallon, and they're kind of sweaty, if that makes sense. They're wet, so be careful handling the milk and also try not to spill it everywhere. Add the 2 gallons of milk, and you're gonna need a whisk, a kitchen thermometer with a probe or something where you can keep track of the temperature. I just give this a quick mix. Just 10 or 15 seconds just to get that blended in. And then we're going to turn on the heat to low, which on my stove is about a 2. All right, so we've got that set on a very low, like a 2.5 on a gas range. I'm just going to go ahead and put the thermometer in there, and I have it set so I don't have to stand here and keep checking. I don't have to keep coming back to check the temperature. I need to come back when it hits 90 degrees to add the rennet. So I will set this to go off when it reaches 86 degrees, and we're just going to set that there and take off for however long it takes for that to get up to temp. So we're going to wait for that to get up to 86 degrees, and then I'll be back and we'll add the rennet, and I will show you the rest of this process. The other thing you will need as far as special equipment if you're going to make mozzarella at home, unless you have heat-proof hands, heat-proof high heat gloves. These are, I got these on Amazon. They're not that much. I'll put links to some of this down below in the description, but you need these because you will be reaching into 185 degree whey at the end of this to stretch the cheese, and you can't do it with kitchen gloves. I've tried. Okay, so I had time to go do some chores while this was heating up, and it has just hit 90 degrees. So we are going to turn off the heat and add, this is a 1/2 cup of water and a teaspoon of the rennet. And this is actually a double batch of this mozzarella, so you could have this recipe, and I'll post the full recipe here, and I'll put it in the description as well. I'm adding the rennet, and then you're going to just give that up and down. I do an up and down motion rather than a stirring around in circles kind of motion, just to blend that in for about 30 seconds. This is so quick. I think from start to finish, you can have this done in about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. So you could start this in the afternoon and serve it to family or friends for dinner. It's wonderful. All right, so that is about 30 seconds worth of you just want to make sure that's incorporated really well. We're going to set that aside, and that's the last time you'll need the whisk. And then, I should have had my lid handy. Then we're going to put a lid on that. The heat is off. We're just going to cover it and set the timer for 5 minutes, and that will set up to a curd that you can cut. So we're going to give that 5 minutes, and I'll be right back. All right, so the timer has gone off. It's been 5 minutes. We're going to turn off the timer and take a peek. And I'm going to go ahead and bring the camera in closer so you can see what this looks like. So here is what this looks like when it's set up, and you can peek and you can kind of test it. But here is the sort of the official cheesemaker's way to test a cheese curd. You take, this is just a cake decorating knife. Take it and make a slice in like that, and then you go in and pull up, and you can see how nice and sharp that cut is, that it's separating nicely. So that means that you have a curd that's ready to cut. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut this. Go all the way down, And we're going to cut 1 inch. You want 1 inch cubes, basically. So you just, and it doesn't, you know, it's not going to be a big deal if it's not measured exact, but just run that through all the way down to the bottom and along in straight lines. And then we're going to do this direction. And it moves around a bit, so you're just going to have to kind of work with it. Cut across that way, and that makes part of what you need, but you need cubes. So we're going to go just cut under and just kind of go in and cut under. And same thing here. We're going to just go in and make, you know, they're kind of rough cut, but they're going to be cubes, more or less. So, and the reason for that is so that you have more cut surface of this curd to be releasing whey, because that's what we're going to do in the next bit, is that we want this to release as much of the whey out of this as we can. We're going to bring the heat slowly back up. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that back on to just, again, right at about a 2.5-ish on a gas stove. And we're going to stir this very slowly. And what we want to do is have this, we're going to check our temp again. We're going to go ahead and reset that up to 110 is what we're looking for. So I'm going to have it go off at 108. And so we're going to just stand here and slowly stir this. And as it comes up to the surface, I look for pieces that are bigger than 1 inch and just give them a little slice with the spatula. So you kind of try and keep them to the, you know, a little bit uniform size. But again, it's a sciencey kind of a science that's exact, but also there's some leeway here, especially on this mozzarella. So I'm going to go ahead and stand here and stir this while we wait for that thermometer to beep at 110. And the point of this again is to just keep it moving as it comes up to that 110 degree temperature. You're just keeping the curds moving so they release more of the whey and the liquid. So you'll get left with more of the solid that will become your beautiful cheese when you're done. While we're watching this get up to temp, we're at 102 right now. In case you're new here, and you probably are, why don't I tell you a little bit about why this channel is here. I grew up in the backwoods of North Idaho in the 1970s, and my family was off-grid before there was a name for it. My parents built our house out in the woods and carved a homestead out of the forest. We lived with no power and no running water for a long time. We had no electricity for 10 years, and we had no running water for 7 years. So we lived off the land quite literally. We built a garden, we had livestock, we bartered for a lot of things we didn't have, and we lived that way all through the 70s and 80s. And so I grew up in the garden with my mom. She cooked everything from scratch. She cooked on a wood stove. We had firewood for heat, the whole thing. So this whole homestead lifestyle that everyone's currently hip about, I've been doing it for longer than a minute. So I thought I would just turn on the camera and film the things I'm already doing, because I'm already doing them. It's just me here. So now it's me and you can see what's up. I'm just going to take you around on some of the days where there's things I'm doing that might be something that people out there want to learn how to do and maybe make it seem a little easier. And you're going to get to see some of the dumb mistakes that I make and some of the klutzy mishaps that happen. We garden here in the northwestern corner of the US on 5 acres in zone probably 5B. And we just got a greenhouse this year for the first time. We've been here for 24 years. We're going to look at what's going on outside in the gardens. There's a lot to do. There's always a lot to do. This will not be the Instagram version of gardening. This is going to be the why does it look this bad after 24 years version. So you're going to come along with me. We're going to renovate some beds. We are just in the process of waiting for some new raised beds to come in. I think they're arriving tomorrow, and we're going to be diving into assembling 14 new raised beds. We're going to show you what we're filling them with, what we're planting in them, what we're mulching around them with. We're going to talk about vegetables and herbs. We're going to talk about canning and preserving. We're going to talk about making cheese. I have made 75 different cheeses. That seems to be the learning curve. Not different types of cheese, but I've kept a little notebook, and I'm on number 76 at this point. And it's only been in about the last dozen that they've turned out where it's like, okay, I've got the cheese thing somewhat down, but the mozzarella, definitely we have it down. We do our own bacon and sausage and ham. We smoke salmon. So I'm going to show you when I'm doing that. There is my timer. We do salami, which is amazing. Oh my goodness. And this stuff is not hard. So I thought it would be nice to share with you guys how to do this stuff. And if I can do it, you can. I mean, if you can read, you can do this. Some of it will require some, some special tools. But for the most part, it's just, if you want to learn it, you can. So I'm just going to turn on the camera when I'm doing it. And I hope it helps you pick up some extra skills, maybe have a few laughs. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, hang out. All right, this has just reached 110 degrees on my thermometer. Actually, it's at 111, which is fine. We're going to go ahead and turn off the heat. And we're going to just let that rest for 5 minutes again. So we're going to set the timer for 5 minutes. And then while that is resting for 5 minutes, what you want to also go get is a large Pyrex, something that'll hold this amount of cheese, because you're going to take it out of this whey and put it in here, and then we're going to heat that whey up way hotter than it is right now. So we want something to pull the cheese out into in 5 minutes. And then after we have stretched it, we're going to want a bowl, which I have here, with water. I'm going to put ice in it. So you want ice water on hand for once you're done stretching, because when you pull it out of the hot whey, you're going to put it in ice water. So all of that is ready. We're going to let this sit for 5 minutes, and then we're going to come back and start the next step. Okay, so the timer has gone off. It's been 5 minutes. So we're going to turn that off, and this is where it gets messy. So I may or may not let you watch this. We are going to wash your hands really well. This water is 110 degrees, so it's okay I use my hands. You could put the gloves on at this point if you want. You can pull the thermometer out for now and make sure that nothing is right here, because you're probably going to splatter whey. Like, make sure your phone's not here and your cookbook's not here. You're going to reach in, and this glob of cheese is going to make it into this glass bowl. So I'm going to turn that so that it can go right over the side. And it's kind of settled to the bottom in a somewhat of a lump in the 5 minutes. So if you're lucky, it can come out in kind of one lump. So you want to pull it out and then strain off as much of that whey out of there as you can. You can see that it's going to keep coming out as it sits, so don't worry about more. But I just kind of do this throughout the process. So there is that. We only needed one hand for that one. And then what we're going to do is turn this whey. First, I'm going to wash my hands. I will be right back. What we're going to do is turn this on to high. We are going to put the thermometer back in, and we're going to reset this temp, because we're going to heat this water up. So I'm going to reset the temp. We want to see, I'm going to set it for about 178. And I usually wait for this whey to be heated up to 178 to 188-ish. And that's when we're gonna put on the gloves and start stretching. I'm gonna set this to go off at 178. And that'll take a little while. So again, you can go do chores or read a book or whatever you do. And here I have about 2/3 to 3/4 of a cup of salt to go with this whey. So that's what I use for a 2-gallon batch of cheese. And this is kosher. I don't think it matters what you use. You're just salting the whey. So I stir that just a little bit to get it dissolved. And then basically we just walk away and come back when the whey is super hot. And I will usually put the lid over the cheese that's in that glass bowl right there, just to keep it covered. If you have cats especially, you do not want them getting involved in the cheese making process. You know what I mean? So, and then when we come back, we're going to stretch it, and then it's going to go in the ice water, and then it's ready to eat. All right, so the water has gotten up to 185 degrees. So I've turned it all the way down to low, because we don't really need it any hotter than that. And I'm going to pour the whey has just kind of come off there. I'm just going to go ahead and add that back to the pot, because it doesn't really need to be there. And this is where the heat-proof gloves come in. So I'm going to try and do this on camera, because I've never done this on camera. I just do it all by myself in the kitchen. So you're going to put the cheese in the hot water. We're going to just knead it a few times down in the hot water. Playing with, I don't know what, Play-Doh, bread dough. It's really soft and the water helps. It's the salt is dissolved in there. And you're going to kind of just get a feel for how stretchy it is. And then you're going to do 3 stretches. So we're going to pull it out of the water and go, beautiful. And then I just wrap it over itself, tip it again. There's a second one. And this is going to splatter away. You're going to have some cleanup afterwards, but it is what it is. And then my third one, these gloves are kind of, they fling water around, or, you know, they splash. So, and there is a nice third one. And then I just wrap it into kind of a, you know, you can kind of shape it with your gloves because the whey is really, really hot. Like I said, you do not want to get that on your skin. Kind of shape it into whatever shape, but I mean, that's kind of a free-form deal. And then I've got my ice water right here, and this is just going to go right in the ice water, and I just leave it in there until it cools down a bit, and it'll just help it set up, and a little bit more of the whey will come out of it. You can take these off and give them a rinse in the sink and turn off the stove, and there you have a very nice piece of gorgeous mozzarella. And that's, I mean, you could serve that right now. It's still warm and it is amazing. And I actually like to just eat it right now. I'll just slice a piece and sprinkle some salt on it and eat it, but we like it in the evenings. This is probably our favorite before dinner appetizer snack. I will slice this up. We'll slice up fresh tomatoes, sprinkle some salt, sprinkle some basil, pour a little bit of garlic olive oil over the top. Mwah, perfection. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Simple Living. Bye for now.